Hello students, I expect that all are fine at home. Stay home and stay safe. Here I am starting with my computer subject, the first chapter, that is Introduction to Object Oriented Concepts. Under that, Unit 1, Principles of Object Oriented Programming. So here students, you all know that every single program written in computer language is either in high level or low level language, and then it is converted to the machine language before being executed. Okay, low level language had certain limitations, so high level language was developed. Okay, so the high level language was further divided into or classified into procedural oriented programming and object oriented programming. Okay, I'll repeat once again this slide, that is every single program is written either in computer language, that is either your low level language or high level language, and then it is converted to machine language before being executed. Okay, your low level language had certain limitations, so high level language was developed. The high level language was further classified into procedural oriented programming language and object oriented programming language. Okay, so the next slide, just look into. Let us go on to procedural oriented programming language. Okay, conventional programming using high level languages such as COBOL, Fortran, BASIC and C are commonly known as procedural oriented programming. It allows the user to apply a number of functions here. Okay, that means the stress was given on functions rather than data values. The stress was given on functions rather than data values. Functions means making a list of instructions for the computer to follow and organize these instructions into groups. Okay, so once again I'll repeat. Conventional programming using high level languages such as BASIC, COBOL, Fortran and C are commonly called as procedural oriented programming. It allows the user to apply a number of functions into it rather than data values. What is a function? Function means making a list of instructions for the computer to follow and organize these instructions into groups. Okay, the next is the characteristics of POP, that is characteristics of procedural oriented programming. Emphasis is on function, that means stress is given on functions. I told you users are using more and more functions in the program rather than using data values over here. Okay, functions share the global data. मतलब क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे, functions को ज़्यादा value दिया जा रहा है than the data information. The third point says data values can keep floating from one function to another, which means data values move freely from one function to another. Okay, and it uses the top-down approach of programming. Top down means from starting to till the end. Top down approach of programming. Once again, I'll let you know. POP gives stress on functions. Functions share global data. Data values can keep floating from one functions to another. That means data values freely move from one function to another function in the program. It uses top-down approach of programming. Then, due to the free flow of data from one function to another, due to the free flow of data values from one function to another, it had certain limitations or drawback. That is, procedural oriented programming had certain limitations or drawbacks. The first one says that as data values are freely moving from one function to another, user may require to make changes in all the functions. जैसे ही देखो डेटा वैल्यू फ्रीली एक फंक्शन से दूसरे फंक्शन में मूव हो रहा है, that time what happens, user has to make, if he feels that he wants to make any changes, means he has to go on to each and every function and make the changes. This is one limitation of POP. The second one says that it is not suitable, this POP level of high level language is not suitable for solving complex problems or not suitable for solving complex programs. Okay, so did you understand the previous slide? The first slide I'll just once again repeat, that is, all programs in computer language is either written in low level or high level language, wherein which these language are then converted to the machine language before executing. Okay, low level language had certain drawbacks or limitation, so the high level language was developed. Your high level language is further classified into procedural oriented programming and object oriented programming. Now, going to the procedural oriented programming, this uses high level languages such as BASIC, COBOL, Fortran and C. It allows the users to use many functions into this rather than your data values. What is a function? Function means making a list of instructions for the computer to follow and organize these instructions into groups. Okay, now let us go on to the characteristics of POP. The first one says that it gives stress on functions rather than your data values. Functions share the global data. Data values keep moving freely from one function to another, and it uses the top-down approach of programming. As the data values are moving from one function to another, the POP had certain drawbacks into it. Okay, as data values were moving globally over all the functions, the users had to make necessary changes in all the functions, and this POP concept was not suitable to solve complex programs or complicated programs. All clear with this? Now, let us go on to OOP. OOP consists of organized group of instruction called as functions. So, I told you just now that is POP consisted functions into that rather than data values. But here what happens is, under object oriented programming, what happens is both the data and functions are used. Both the data and functions are used. It does not allow the data to flow freely from one function to another. So who is not allowing the data to flow freely? That is, object oriented programming concept does not allow the data to flow freely from one function to another. Each data is related with an object. Each data is related with an object. Each object includes a set of data items and related functions. So each data includes a set of data items and functions. The data value of an object is applicable only within the functions associated with that object. On to the features of object-oriented programming. Before going to the features of object-oriented programming, I'll just revise you that POP consists of more and more functions into that. That means POP was giving stress on functions rather than data values. But here in object-oriented programming, what happens is the stress is given more on data items, that is data values, rather than functions. Okay. Before in POP, the stress was given on functions rather than data values, but in OOP, the stress is given on data items rather than functions. Here, it makes a complete program simpler. It makes a complete program simpler by dividing it into number of objects. It divides the program simpler, or it makes the program simpler by dividing it into number of objects. The objects is like a bridge to flow the data from one function to another. Says that the object is like a bridge that is helping data to flow from one function to another. The concept of data hiding is used to give security in the program. Data hiding concept gives security in the program. That means the values are secured. Which values? The data values are secured. This programming has high advantage to solve complex problems. In POP, what happened? It could not solve complex programs. That is, it could not solve complex programs because the programs over there was very lengthy. How it was lengthy? Because the user was using more and more functions into it. So the program was type of confusing type for the users. So it had disadvantage. Whereas in OOP, the programming is having an advantage to solve complex programs, that is complex programming codings. Okay, and examples of OOP is Java, C++ and Python. And in POP, the examples of programming language was which? That is BASIC, Fortran, COBOL, C. Okay. Any doubt with this slide? Okay, let us go on to the next slide. Let us have a grasping of the difference between the POP and OOP. That is, under POP, the stress is put on function rather than data. Under OOP, the stress is put on data rather than function. Under POP allows the data to flow freely throughout the program from one function to another, but under OOP the data is restricted. It is restricted, that is, it has been used in a specified program area. It cannot move freely from one function to another. Under POP, it follows the top-down approach of programming, and under OOP, it follows the bottom-up approach of programming. Next slide. Let us go on to the basic principles of OOP. This is the very important principles that you are supposed to follow while programming under object-oriented. Okay, you all had learned this in your 8th standard. I have taught you all the important principles of OOP. You might have learned about data abstraction, then inheritance, then polymorphism and encapsulation. Okay, let us go on. I'll just repeat once again, that is data abstraction. Data abstraction says that the act of representing the essential features without knowing the background details. It is always relative to the purpose or user. So that means, what do you mean by data abstraction? It is the act of representing the essential features without knowing the background detail. Yes, you can take an example. I have told you the meaning of this in your 8th standards class. That is, for example, a user is very new for driving a car. He doesn't have a knowledge, but still he feels that he has to move an accelerator of a car. Okay, or else a person he's using is operating an Apple mobile phone, but he doesn't know the features of that mobile phone. Still he wants to operate it. That means he doesn't know the background detail of that mobile phone, but still he wants to operate it. That is called as data abstraction. Or else a digital camera. The person doesn't know how to operate with a digital camera, yet he goes on pressing the buttons of it without knowing the background of it. How does it operate? Is called as data abstraction. I'll once again repeat. It is an act of representing the essential features without knowing the background details is called as data abstraction. The next one, I have even told you the definition of a class in your 8th standard lecture. Okay, a class is a template of objects. Okay, each object of a class has some attributes and common behavior defined within a class. A class is also referred to as a blueprint or a prototype of an object. Tell me, what is an example? What example can you give for this? You can give the example of your own class. Okay, right now you belong to 9th standard. You may be either in your 9th A or 9th B, or 9th A or 9th B is your class. Okay, it is a template of objects. How will you refer objects to? Objects will be you yourself, your students. You all are in 9th A or 9th B class, and the template of objects means you all, a group of students are referred to an object. Each object of a class, each student of a class has some attributes and common behavior. Some attributes means common things or common behavior which you are having within same students defined within the class. A class is also referred to as a blueprint or a prototype of an object. Okay, now coming to the second principle of object-oriented programming is your inheritance. Inheritance means to share common properties of one class with another class. That means the object of a class acquires some common properties from the objects of another class. This is plausible by deriving a new class from the existing class. The new class will have the combined feature of the both classes. Now, to give me an example of this now, sharing the common properties of one class, some properties from the object of another class. What example can you give? Your own classroom. Standard A, that is 9th A, standard 9th B. Okay, you are having same common class over there. Okay, you are having common class, but you are sharing, you are having different class, but you are sharing common properties. That may be either your subjects, either your lectures, either your teachers, your common, sharing your common properties. Okay, that is called as inheritance. Okay, the class gets inherited to another class is known as base class or a superclass. The class that inherits from the base class is known as derived class or subclass or target. Okay, is that clear over here? Now, polymorphism. Polymorphism says you that defines a process of using a function or a method more than one purpose. That means, in a simpler words, you can say that using a single function to carry multiple tasks. Okay, polymorphism says that using a function to carry multiple tasks. For example, you can say the term cell, C-E-L-L. Okay, this C-E-L-L word is been either used in physics but has different meaning into it. It is also used in biology, again has a different meaning into it. Or else you can consider as a small room, a small administrative cell, a small computer cell. Okay, so the same word is carrying multiple meaning into it. A single function, that means a single function carries a multiple task into it, is called as polymorphism. Okay, just look into one more 2 points, that is polymorphism supports function overloading. Okay, function overloading. It is a process of using a function or a method for more than one purpose. The term function overloading is defined as it has same function name with different parameters. Just look into the above example. It is having the same name, CELL, cell, but it has different meanings. Okay, that is called as function overloading. Okay, it is called as function overloading. Function overloading is defined as it has the same function name with different parameters. Okay, so function overloading is a process to create number of functions or methods with the same name but with the different parameters into it. Is that clear to all? Okay, the next one, the last principle is encapsulation. The last principle is encapsulation. The system of wrapping of data and function into the single unit is called as encapsulation. What does encapsulation mean? Encapsulation says you that wrapping up of data and function into the single unit is called as encapsulation. Just take an example over here. You are considering that you are having object 1 and you are having object 2. In your object 1, you again have data and function, and again in your object 2, you are having data and function. So what is been told over here? The data of object 1 cannot be accessed directly by the object 2. Okay, once again I'll repeat. The data of object 1 can't be accessed directly from the object 2. But if object 1 wants to access the data of object 2, this can be done by using functions into it. This can be done by using function into it. Okay, is that clear? तो क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे, ऑब्जेक्ट 1 का डेटा को डायरेक्टली ऑब्जेक्ट 2 एक्सेस नहीं कर सकता, बट अगर करना चाहता है तो कैसे कर सकता है, थ्रू फंक्शंस, थ्रू फंक्शन. तो क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे, व्हाट इज हैपनिंग ओवर हियर, द डेटा एंड फंक्शंस आर टुगेदर wrapped. Okay, that is called as encapsulation. Is that clear to all? Any doubt over here? Okay, I'll just stop. I complete with my unit 1, that is principles of object oriented programming. I'll just recall from the beginning for you all what and all we had gone through. That is about POP and OOP we had gone through over here. Okay, that is, I have told you about procedural oriented programming. There is a high level oriented programming. Example was basic COBOL, Fortran and C, but it had certain limitations and drawbacks because it was using more and more functions into it rather than data values. So as you are using more and more functions into the programming, that means your program becomes very lengthier. So it was very difficult for the user to prepare a program over here. Hence POP programming language stopped. After that OOP came into being. OOP, what happens over here? You are using more and more data values rather than functions, and over here what happens? As we are using objects, the program becomes very simpler by using objects over here, and as objects is like a bridge to flow data from one function to another. So data hiding security was given over here in the object oriented programming concept, and it was able to solve lengthy programs also and complex programs also. Example was C++, Java and Python. Okay, the difference you can look into over here of POP and OOP. And the basic principles I have told you just now, that is about data abstraction, then inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation. So here I complete with unit 1 of your chapter number 1. Thank you.
Hello students, I'll start with the unit 2, that is elementary concepts of objects and classes. Okay, here we'll just learn about what is an object, the various categories of objects. In the previous unit 1, you all had learned about basic principles of OOP concept. Okay, now here what is an object? Object is a fundamental unit of object oriented programming. They are also referred to as an entities. Objects are categorized in two ways, that is real world object as well as software world object. Real world object as well as software world object. An object is also called as an instance of a class. So I have told you about what is an object. Object is considered as an entities. Okay, it is a basic unit of object oriented programming. Okay, it is categorized into two ways, that is real world object and software objects. Objects are also called as an instance of a class. Now, under real world objects, these are the objects that are one we experience in our day-to-day life. Okay, following are some of its features. The objects which are visible to us, which have a definite shape and size. It can be bought in thoughts and figures. Each real world objects contains characteristics or the behavior. Okay, so the objects which we are using in our day-to-day life, which have a definite shape and size, and which a user can think about it, its shapes and figures, okay, which is having characteristics as well as behavior, is called as an real world object. example you can take it as of a car, a mobile phone, a table, etc. Okay, now for car, so car is an object. Now it can be divided into characteristics as well as a behavior. So characteristics means types of cars, types of mobiles, names of mobiles. Okay, and its behavior, why it is used for, why car is used for, why mobile is used for. Okay, the same way with that of a table. Table, why we are using table, what is the characteristic of that? It is having four wooden legs. Okay, so these are the real world objects are contains the characteristics as well as the behavior. Next comes with that of software objects. Okay, next comes with that of software objects. It is an object that is created while writing in a Java program. So software objects are the objects which are created while writing a Java program. It contains data members and data methods. Okay, it contains data members as well as data methods. Methods is nothing but the another name of method is functions. Okay, how your real world object contains characteristics and behavior, the same way the software object contains data members as well as methods. The state or the characteristics of the real world objects are considered to be the data members in the software objects. The characteristics of the real world objects are considered to be the data members in the software objects, whereas the behavior in the real world are considered to be the method in the software objects. Are considered to be the method in the software objects. Is that clear to all? Okay, I'll just once again repeat with my slides. Okay, object is the fundamental unit of a object oriented programming, that is your OOP. It is also referred to as an entity. It is categorized, objects are categorized under real world object as well as software objects. Object is also called as an instance of a class. Okay, the real world objects are those that we are experiencing in our day-to-day life. Some features of our real world objects means it is visible to us, it is having definite shape and size, it can be brought into our thoughts and figures, it contains characteristics as well as behavior. Whereas the software objects are the objects which has been created while writing a Java program. It consists of data members as well as methods. Okay, the data members are called as characteristic under real world and the methods are called as behaviors under the real world. Okay, next, can you see an example over here? See here, there is an object. It has been divided in under characteristic or behavior. Okay, so under real world you have taken an object called as book. Okay, and the characteristics are the book contains chapters, number of chapters, number of pages, number of topics. Okay, and what is the behavior of that book? Why it is used for? It is used to read or it is used to prepare notes. Okay, the same way under the software world, just see, the object is considered as a student and the characteristics are called as data members under software world and the behavior is called as methods or function under software world. Okay, so student is an object under software world, wherein which data members consist of students' names, subjects or and marks. And now here we are saying as behavior as functions or method. So what we are doing? We are taking two functions over here, that is called as accept and display. Why we are taking as accept and display? Because we are accepting, we are taking the under software world, we are taking the data members as an input, and then later we are accepting the data members as an input, and then we are displaying the name of a student or a subject name or a marks of a student with the help of output statement. Okay, so here did you understood this with the table? So under real world they have taken an object called as example as book, and the characteristics consist of the chapters, pages, topics, and whereas behavior, why it is used for, it is used to prepare notes as well as used to read the book. And under software world, the object is taken as student, the data members are called as names, subjects and marks, and we are accepting the input, we are accepting the data members and displaying the output. You all have learned this all in your 9th standard. Okay, next comes the topic called as message passing. Objects can interact with each other. Objects can interact with each other. They interact through behaviors or methods which are better known as message passing. So how are the objects interacting? They can interact with each other by the behavior or the method called as message passing. Okay, so behavior is being called under which world? Whether in the real world or else in the software world, behavior has been called under real world, and methods are called under software world. Okay. Next comes a concept called as class. What is a class? A class is a blueprint or a template for its objects. A class is a blueprint or a template for its objects. It is simply a representation of similar type of objects. It is simply a representation of similar types of objects. I have given you this example in your earlier classes also. What is a class? Okay, a collection of objects is called as a class. Okay, class is a blueprint or a template for its object. It is simply a representation of similar types of objects. For example, I have told you, now you all have come to that standard 10. Previously you all learned this topic under standard 9. So I had taken an example of standard 9. Standard 9 is your class wherein which you all students are considered to be as an objects. Is it clear? Okay, so here I have mentioned the example called as fruits. Okay, fruits is the class name, and names of the fruits can be considered as an objects. Names of fruits can be considered as an object. Any doubt over here? Okay, so I expect that all are clear with this topic. Okay, next, of creating objects of a class. Creating objects of a class. So you are supposed to follow the syntax, that is class name, object name equals to new class name. Okay, so what is a syntax for creating objects of a class? So that is your class name, object name equals to new class name, wherein which you are inserting the name of your class. In the class you are inserting the name of the object, but wherein which you are joining your class name and object name with a keyword called as new, and then again you are calling a function by the same name of your class name. Okay, in this way you create objects of a class. So just see an example over here. They have considered the class name as car, and they have taken an object name, that is the car name, as BMW equals to new class name, that is car. So what is that? Car open bracket close bracket, new car open bracket close bracket, new car open bracket close bracket says that you are calling again one more a function by the same class name. Is that clear? Okay, then what is a new keyword? Why new keyword is been used? A new keyword is used to allocate a space in the dynamic memory for creating an object. A new keyword is used to allocate a space in the dynamic memory for creating an object. Clear? Okay. And what is an attribute over here? Attributes are characteristics or data members of an object. Attributes are called as characteristics or a data members of an object. Is that clear to all? Okay. So next, shall we go to the next part? This is an example of a real world class and object. Just look into real world class and object, where I have taken an example of a class name called as car. I have told you in the real world it has been called as it contains of characteristics and behavior. So they have taken a class called as car, wherein which you are representing, you are inputting the characteristics as well as behavior over here. The characteristics consist of a color of a car, model of a car, as well as behavior consists of why it is used for, why car has been used for. So car has been used for making journey or else for demo. Okay, demo means practicing for the car. Okay, and they have created an object over there. Okay, so which are the objects over there? The names of the car is your objects over there. That is your Honda, Nano, Maruti is objects which has been created under the class called as car. That is car Honda equals to new car, car Nano equals to new car, car Maruti equals to new car. Okay, so these are the objects which has been created under the class named as car. Okay, characteristics says you the features of the car as well as the behavior says you that you are having the uses, why you are using that particular car for. Okay, similar one more object is there for another object that is called as flower, is considered as a class over here. Flower is considered as a class over here, wherein which it has been divided under characteristics and behavior. Okay, so flower, so what will be the features of a flower? Its color, smell. Okay, and behavior, why it has been used for? It has been used for decoration and worship. Decoration and worship. Okay, and they have created an object under the class flower. That is, which are the objects over here? That is your rose, lily and lotus are the creation of the objects which has been done under the class flower. Okay, any doubt over here? Fine. Next comes with that of the state of an object is represented by the attribute of that objects. The state of an object is been represented by an attribute of an object. What is the state? State is nothing but the characteristic of the object is been represented by the attribute of that object. And the important terms that is related to the class is an object factory, class is a user defined data type, objects is an instance of a class. So these important terms you are supposed to know related to the class. Class is an object factory, class is a user defined data type, objects is an instance of a class. So this is an difference between the class as well as an object. Okay, so just look into class, representation of abstraction only. Object is a real and a unique entity having some characteristics and behavior. Class is an object producer and hence called as a blueprint or a set of objects. Object is created with the use of new operator. Class is also known as an object factory. Object is also known as instance of a class. Okay, so this is the difference. Fine. So here I'll stop. I completed with my unit 2. Okay, that is elementary concepts of objects and classes in this video. In the next video, I'll start with the Unit 3 concept. Thank you.
Hello students, in the previous video you all had learnt about Unit 2, that is elementary concepts of objects and classes, and in this video you will be learning about Unit 3, that is values and data types. You all have gone through with this chapter also in your previous year, that is in your 9th standard syllabus. Okay, I'll just give you a brief explanation of this. So now, language. You are supposed to know about the word called as language. It is the medium of communication. Java is a computer language used for communication with computer. It uses character sets to communicate, that is letters, digits, operators and delimiters. Letters are all alphabets, that is either in uppercase or lowercase. Digits starts from 0 and ends till 9. Operators may be your arithmetic operator like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division and modulus. Then comes logical operator, that is your and, or and not. Relational operators, that is your greater than or equal to, lesser than or equal to, is equal to, not equal to. Delimiters are your special characters like your punctuation marks as well as braces. Okay, so to communicate with computer, the user uses a computer language, that is your Java language, and this language uses character sets to communicate. It may be either a letter, a digit, operator or else your delimiter. Fine. Next comes encoding a character. So encoding a character, if you want to enter any character from the keyboard, directly it will not be stored in your computer memory. So for this reason, if you want to store the character in your computer memory, it will be converted into a numeric form, that is your binary form. You all are aware that a computer doesn't understand any English language, any regional language. So to convert those languages, you are supposed to convert it in the form of binary, that is either a 0 or a 1. Hence, two types of encoding scheme is used in computer to encode the characters, that is either a ASCII code or a Unicode. So let us go on with the topic called as Unicode. Is a representation of a character in the number form. It contains hexadecimal digits ranging from 0 into 0000 to 0 into FFFF. That is, it consists 16 bits of code. It can address up to 1,60,755 characters in a computer. Advantages is more efficient coding system, supports uniform coding width of 16 bits, never be one code more than one character. Okay, so once again I'll repeat, Unicode is a representation of a character in a number form. It is containing hexadecimal digits ranging from 0 into 0000 to 0 into FFFF, that is your 16 bits code. It can address up to 1,60,755 characters. It is a efficient coding system, supports uniform coding width of 16 bits and never be one code for more than one character. Okay, literally this Unicode character stopped. Later came with that of ASCII codes, are the decimal numbers represented in 7 binary bits. Unicode was 16 binary bits, 16 bits code, whereas your ASCII code is your 7 binary bits. Whereas your ASCII code character ranges from 0 to 127. as well as in your Unicode, the ASCII character, in your Unicode, it addresses up to 1,60,755. Clear? Next comes with that of your escape sequence. You all have learnt this also. So escape sequence are used to control the cursor while displaying the values on the screen. So whenever you want to control your cursor while displaying the value on the screen, you use your escape sequences. Each escape sequence starts with a backslash followed by a specific character. The complete set of escape sequence, that is including your backslash or else along with any of your character, is enclosed within the double quote. For example, if you want to insert a horizontal tab, so the escape sequence for that is /t, or else if you want to insert a new line, the escape sequence for that is /n. So whatever escape sequence you are inserting, it must be within your double quote, and you are using these escape sequence in your SOP statements. Okay, so escape sequence are used to control the cursor while displaying the values on the screen. More and more escape sequence examples, if you want, you can refer your page number 15 in your textbook. Okay, the next is your tokens. Now, what is tokens? Tokens means individual component of a Java statement that carries some meaning and takes a part in the execution of a program. So token means individual component of a Java statement that carries a meaning and takes a part in the execution program. Okay, so in a simpler words, you can say a component in a Java which carries a certain meaning in it is called as token. Various types of tokens are constants, also called as literals, identifiers, also called as variables, assignments, punctuators, separators, operators, and keyword. So various types of tokens are constants, also called as literals, identifiers, also called as variables, assignments, punctuators, separators, operators, and keywords. Let us start with the first token, that is your literals, also called as constant. So in Java program, the quantity remains fixed, do not change in the execution of a program are called as constant. So the quantity or the value is fixed, which doesn't change during the execution of a program, is called as constant. So various constants are integer, real literals, character literals, string, boolean, null. These are your constants or the literals. So first one, integer, are the whole numbers having positive or negative values. It doesn't have your decimal number. Real literals are the floating point numbers or the decimal number. Character constants are alphanumeric characters, that is your alphabet digits, uppercase letters, lowercase letters, special characters which are enclosed in single quote. So any character which is enclosed in single quote, it may be your bigger letter, upper letter or lower letter or a number or any special character, whichever it is in your single quote is called as your character constant. Real constant means your floating number, decimal numbers, whole positive decimal number or whole negative decimal number. Over here, integer number means whole values. It will not consist any decimal numbers into it. Okay, so integer consists of whole decimal, whole positive and negative number. Real literal consists of decimal numbers. Character literals consist of alphanumeric characters. Alphanumeric means alphabets as well as numbers. as well as special characters which is enclosed in single quote. Okay, then comes string constants are alphanumeric characters enclosed in double quotes. Okay, whichever words or letters or sentences are enclosed are inside your double quotes are called as string constant. Then comes boolean. Boolean says that you are checking for the statement or a condition whether it is true or false, whether it is satisfied or not. Now, one thing you are supposed to remember when you are using your boolean token, that is, you never insert any true or false in your quotes, never enclosed in quotes. Okay, and the last one represents your null, that is /o. It says that you are terminating your string and marking end of your string. So these are the literals, comes under your tokens. Okay, clear? Now next comes with the second literal, that is your identifier, also known as variable. Constants also known as literals. Identifiers also called as variables. Variables used to represent function name and your class name. Variable is used to represent your function name and your class name. Variables contains values into it. Variables contains values into it. It can declare more than variable of a same data type. You can declare more variable of a same data type. So syntax for declaring a variable is data type, give a space and a variable name, any variable name of your wish. Okay, an example has been given of your data type int and float, where you are inserting for int a variable called as m, and here you are storing whole positive and negative number, and float is another data type where you are storing your decimal numbers in the variable p, q and r. Clear? So once again I will tell you, identifiers are also called as variables. Variables used to represent function name or a class name. Variables contains values. You can declare more than one variable of the same data type. The syntax for declaring a variable identifier or a variable is data type, give a space with a variable name. So one variable has been declared for the data type int, and 3 variables of the same data type float has been declared. Clear? Then next comes the rules of naming a variable. Rules of naming a variable. Fine. So you may have any number of characters. May contain alphabets, digits, $sign and underscore. Underscore is used to separate 2 words. Okay, so the rules for naming a variable are: may have any number of characters, may contain alphabets, digits, $sign and underscore. Underscore is used to separate the words. Next comes another one token called as assignment, means to store constant or to store the value in a variable using a token called as equals to symbol. Remember that equals to symbol is the only assignment operator where you are storing a value inside the variable. Okay, you are storing the constant or a literal inside a variable. Another name of variable is identifier, using a token called as assignment operator. Okay, just see the previous example here. Okay, so you are storing a constant, means you are storing a value to the variable m using an assignment operator. Okay, is that clear? So just see over here. Assignment means to store the value inside the variable using a token equals to. Equals to symbol acts as an assignment operator. Syntax for storing a value in your variable, that is data type space variable name equals to constant, and an example for this is data type, assume it as int data type, variable name assume it as m equals to a constant, a value, any value of your wish. So here I have taken as a value number 5, that says that I am storing the value 5 in the variable m, which is of the data type integer. Okay, I am storing the value 5 in the variable m, which is of the data type integer. Clear? So in a simpler words, I can say that value 5 is being stored in my variable m with the help of an assignment operator equal, wherein which my m variable is in turn stored in my data type int. Clear? So I'll stop over here. I'll continue my unit 3 in my next video. Thank you. Hello students, I'll continue with my third unit, that is values and data types, and I'll continue with the topic, that is initializing a variable. In the previous video I have completed till assignment operator. Okay, in this video I'll just continue with how initializing a variable has been done. The initialization of variable has been done in two ways, that is static and dynamic. Static means direct assignment of constant or direct assignment of value to a defined variable. Okay, as well as dynamic means variable gets initialized at runtime, that is during execution of a program. You all know this, you have learnt in your 9th standard. Next comes with the operator with a token called as punctuator. Punctuation sign or a special character R, that is question mark, dot operator, semicolon. Okay, separators, operators and keyword are various tokens. We will just look into punctuation signs or special characters are question mark, represents the action when the condition is true. Okay, it is also known as ternary operator, you know it. Dot represents a scope of function where it belongs to objects or a class. We use dot operator when we are creating an object. Then comes semicolon. Semicolon represents determination, that is the terminator for any statement or an end of a statement. Next one is your separators, that is special characters used to separate the values, variables or characters, that is either a comma, open braces or a close braces, open curly braces or a close curly braces and a squared brackets. Okay. Operators perform arithmetical or logical operations, that is either your arithmetic operation or a logical, that is and or not, and a relational operators, that is greater than, is greater, is not, is lesser than, is equal to, not equal to, and is less than or equal to. Next comes keywords are the reserved words which are used by the system to carry a special meaning for compilation. Example for the reserved words are the various keywords are there. Here it is mentioned as class or publics or throws or for, square root or system. There may be either void, okay, static, public, void, okay, then class, all these are keywords. Fine. So your punctuators have done initializing of a variable, direct assignment of a value to a variable. So here just see direct assignment of a value to a variable has been done. Direct assignment of a value to a variable has been done. This is called as static initialization. And whereas the variable is been given the value during the time of execution is called as dynamic initialization. Okay, then punctuators I have done. Okay, let us go on to the data types used in Java. Okay, there are the data types has been divided into two types, that is primitive data type and non-primitive data type. Primitive data type is again divided into two categories, that is numeric and non-numeric data type. Okay, numeric is your integer and float, whereas non-numeric is your character and boolean. And your non-primitive data types are your classes, arrays and interface. Your non-primitive data type is also called as user-defined data type, exactly. Okay, so these are your data types that you know it. You have learned about integer, float, character, boolean also, which represents your string data type or a string class. On classes, arrays and interface you will be learning later on. Okay, so primitive data type, again I told you that you know it. It is an independent data type, also called as basic data type. Okay, that is example byte, int, float, long, float and double. So this is the chronological order of your primitive data type. First comes byte, then comes int, then comes short, then int, then comes long, then comes float and double. Integer data type says that a variable declared integer type contains whole number. Okay, the number may be either a positive or a negative number with no decimal point. Okay, the four types of declaration under integer is byte, short, int and long. Byte means it is using bitwise operation is done over here. Short means all smaller values. Int means which are more than the short integers, and long means the longer integers. Floating type means you are inserting decimal numbers are stored over here. Numbers are defined in two ways, but that is your float and double. Okay, float represents the fractional number, that is the decimal numbers in small range, and double represents against your decimal number in a wider range. Next comes character. Character type variable contains single character. These are 256 characters available. There are 256 characters available. Those are ASCII characters. You have learned about ASCII characters also. These ASCII characters are assigned a specific numeric value called as ASCII code. The ASCII code ranges from 0 to 255. Okay, 256 characters are available. They are saying that means it doesn't start from 1, it starts from 0. 0 to 255. 0 to 9 consists of which characters? That is from A to A to something sorry. So 0 to 9 ASCII characters consist of your ASCII code starting from 48 to 57. Then comes a star. Then you are having ASCII characters uppercase alphabets, that is A to Z, which starts from 65 and ends up to 90 and goes on. So these are your ASCII characters. Okay, after that, so commonly used ASCII characters are 0 to 127. Okay, after that single character declaration and string declarations here. How you are declaring your ASCII characters, that is how you are declaring your characters. Okay, so how a single character as well as string character has been declared. That is data type, variable and a character. So for example, if it is a single character, you take a data type as char with a variable equals to, within a single code you are inserting a character, and string declaration means a data type variable with within a double code you are inserting your string. Okay, any of your string. Okay, it may be a word or a string. Fine. So this is declaration of your string character. Next, type conversion, converting various data type into a single type. This also you had learnt, conversion of various data type into a single type. So there are two ways of type conversion, that is implicit type conversion and explicit type conversion. So under implicit says that converting a data type to another data type automatically by the computer with the highermost type is called as implicit data type. So here what is happening, you are converting your data type to another data type automatically to the highermost, to the higher level of data type. For example, if it is an integer, you are converting this data type to a highermost level of data type. It may be as long. Okay, whereas explicit type conversion is converting the data type to another data type depending on the user's choice. It depends on the user's choice. If he wants the integer data type to be converted to the float data type, the user can do so. So this is called as implicit type and explicit type. Conversion of your data type to another data type automatically is your implicit, and converting the data type to another data type depending on user's choice is explicit. Okay, so here I complete with your third unit of your values and data type. I'll just repeat from the beginning what I have completed with that of. Just look into. So in the previous chapter, previous video, I have completed with what languages are you using for the medium of communication, that is Java language, computer language, and you are using character sets into that. The various character sets are letters, digits and operators. Then you are even using logical operator, relational operator, delimiters, punctuation marks and braces. Then encoding a character means you are entering the characters into with the help of a keyboard to the computer memory, and this can be encoded by using ASCII code and Unicode. Then about Unicode, I have told it is a representation of character in a numeric form, and it uses hexadecimal digits ranging from 0 into 0000 to 0 into FFFF, and it takes 16 bits code, and the address exceeds to 1,60,755. Okay, then ASCII code is a decimal number represented in 7 binary digits, and the character ranges from 0 to 127. I have told you about your escape sequences also. Okay, it controls the cursor while displaying the values on the screen, and always it will start with a backslash followed by a character. Then this escape sequence is always enclosed within double quotes. Okay, for more reference of escape sequence, please refer your page number 15 from your textbook. Okay, then I have told you about tokens, means an individual component of a Java statement that carries a special meaning into it while during the execution of a program. These are the various tokens, types of tokens that you are using in your programming of Java. Then and the explanation of the various tokens has been displayed over here. Clear? So here I end up with your unit 3, that is values and data type. In the next video I will start with your unit 4, that is operators in Java. Till then, thank you. Hello students, in this video I am going to explain your unit 4, that is operators in Java. Okay, In the previous video, we had covered up with values and data type, okay, the third unit, and in this video, I'll start with operators in Java, that is unit 4, okay. I expect that most of them are recalled with your syllabus of your 9th standard. You remember a few things which we have learned in this chapter 4 in your 9th standard. I'll just recall you all once again in this video, okay. Operators are basically a symbol or a token which perform arithmetical and logical operations and gives meaningful result. You are aware of this statement. It is actually a symbol or a token which performs arithmetical or logical operations and gives a meaningful result. I expect you know the meaning of token also, okay. The values which are involved in the operations are called as operands. The values which are involved in your operation are called as operands here. This is a small figure example saying that you are having two operands over here where you are performing an operation. Fine. Next slide says you about arithmetical expressions as well as about arithmetical statement, okay. And just see and understand the difference between arithmetical expression as well as arithmetical statement over here, okay. I'll just tell you about arithmetical expression first. An arithmetical expression contains variables, constant and arithmetical operators together to produce a result, okay. An arithmetical expression consists of variables, constants and arithmetical operators together to perform a result, to give a result. Just look into the example. You are having variable as x and y, right? You have variable as an x and y, okay, and you have a arithmetical operator over here in between. Fine, that is called as an arithmetical expression, okay. Arithmetical expression. These are two variables with one arithmetical operator is your arithmetical expression. Or else you have a combination of three, that is your variable, constant and your arithmetical operator. Variable, arithmetical operator and a constant. Yes. So this is called as, in such a way you get your arithmetical expression performed. So here just see the example of all the three arithmetical expression this. That is your variable is here, your operator is here, as well as your constant is the combination gives you the arithmetical expression here. Fine. Whereas in your arithmetical statement what happens is, when an arithmetical expression is assigned to a variable, then it is known as arithmetical statement. Fine. When a arithmetical expression is assigned to a variable. Just see over your example. There is an variable where the expression has been assigned to it. How it has been assigned? Using a equals to symbol. Equals to symbol. Equals to symbol is also called as an which operator? Assignment operator. It is called as an assignment operator. Fine. Is that clear? Next slide is the forms of operator. This you are supposed to understand properly, wherein which you consist of prefix and postfix, and this prefix and postfix confuse most of the students. Okay. Forms of operator, there are three types of operators. That is the unary operator, okay, your unary plus operator, your unary minus operator and your unary increment and decrement operator, okay. Unary operator in which consists of unary plus, unary minus and unary increment and decrement operator. Now, unary operator, an arithmetical operator which is applied to a single operand, and arithmetic operator which has been applied to a single operand is called as unary operator. Example is your plus or minus, that is increment or decrement, or plus plus or minus minus. Okay. Now just look into your unary plus operator. This operator is used before the operand. It results in the same value of the variable. Okay, understand the concept. The unary plus operator is used before the operand. It is used before the operand. The result is the same of the value of the variable. Now, for example, for a variable a, I have given a value called as 8. So a's value is what? 8. But when you are using unary operator to it, this unary operator will be before your value. It will be before your value, that is plus 8, and the result will give you what? Same value, that is 8. Understand? Yes. Next, unary minus. This operator is also same like your unary plus operator. It is also used before the operand, that is unary minus before the operand. But what happens to the reverse? Okay, what happens to the reverse? Unary minus reverses the sign of the operand. It will reverse the sign of an operand. Clear? Yes. Just see over here. If a is equal to 4, so this is positive number 4, then minus a will give you the reverse of your operand. Okay, the result will be minus 4. Here plus 4, it will give you reverse of it as minus 4. Just see over here. If a is equal to minus 3.6, then minus a will give you the reverse of your operator as 3.6. Understood? Yes. The next one is your increment, unary increment, that is plus plus, and unary decrement, that is minus minus. Just see here. Unary increment operator plus plus increases the value of an operand by 1. Okay. यूनरी इंक्रीमेंट एंड डिक्रीमेंट में बाय 1 इंक्रीज होता है और बाय 1 डिक्रीज होता है। यूनरी प्लस और यूनरी माइनस में नहीं होता है, यू विल नॉट गेट। ओके, यू जस्ट understand what will be the result of it. In your unary plus, what will happen? The result will be the same of that of your variable value. Okay, and the assignment of your operator unary plus will be given to before of your variable. Unary minus also, the assignment of the operator has been given before of your variable. Okay, but your unary minus operator, what happens? It gives you the output in a reverse type. Fine. Now here what happens in unary increment or decrement? It increases the value and decreases the value by 1. Okay, in your unary increment operator plus plus, the increases of the value of an operand is done by 1. And unary decrement operator minus minus decreases the value of an operand by 1. For example, x equals to x plus 1. Okay, x equals to x plus 1. By applying increment operator, it can be written as x plus plus or minus minus x. It can be written as x plus plus or minus minus x, that is increased by 1 and decreased by 1. Clear? Next. Now your unary increment and decrement operator is again subdivided into prefix and postfix. Prefix and postfix. Fine. So prefix, when the increment or decrement operator are applied before the operand, when the increment or decrement operator is been applied before the operand, they are known as prefix operator. Any increment or decrement operator which has been applied before the operand, then it is called as prefix operator. This operator works on the principle of change before action. This operator works on the principle of change before action. It means the value of the variable changes before the action is taken place. The value of an operation is the value of a variable changes before the operation is taken place. Once again I will repeat, prefix means when you are using an increment or decrement operator, this has been applied before the operand. The increment and decrement operator has been applied before the operand. It is called as prefix operator. Okay? Prefix operator. This operator works on the principle of change before action. It means the value of a variable changes before the action is taken place. Example, take as P equals to 5. P equals to 5. Which type of expression is this? This is an arithmetic expression. Okay, arithmetic expression. Okay, P is equal to 5. Fine. P has been given, a variable has been given a value or a constant called as 5. Your expression, this is your arithmetic statement now. This is your arithmetical expression. This is your P equals to P plus P into 4. This is your arithmetical statement wherein which the expression is been assigned to a variable. Fine. P equals to plus P into 4. Plus P means prefix. Okay. Prefix. Fine. What is the value of P? Is 5. Is incrementing 1? Yes, is incrementing 1. And how is the prefix working? Change before the action. Change before the action. Yes or no? So 5 incremented by 1, change before the action is taken place as 6 into 4, that is 24. Same here also. D is a variable given with a value called as 11. Expression says as D, statement says as D is equal to 4 plus minus D. Okay. Change before action. Decrementing by 1. So 4 plus 11 becomes 10 equals to 14. Clear how your prefix is working? Yes. Next, coming to the postfix. This unary operator is used after an operand. It is used after an operand whose value is to be increased or decreased by 1. This works on the principle of change after action. Prefixes change before action. Postfixes change after action. This means that the operand will be affected after performing the operation. This means that the operand will be affected after performing the operation. Just see over here, variable is given as 5 as your value constant. Expression says as C equals to P plus plus into 4. C equals to P plus plus into 4. Okay. Change after your action. What will be the value here of P? It will be the same as of P. P plus plus का value क्या रहेगा? Same as P. That is 5 into 4 and equals to 20. Equals to 20. But what happens is, if it is not incrementing after action, because your expression is ending up here, but if over here after 4 it would be plus P, means the one which was remained to be incremented would be given to another variable over here. बट फिलहाल के लिए क्या है, यहाँ पर एक्सप्रेशन स्टॉप हो रहा है, तो यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है, आंसर रिजल्ट मिलके कंप्लीट हो रहा है. बट अगर 4 के बाद अगर प्लस p रहता तो यहाँ पे जो पेंडिंग था ना इंक्रीमेंट का बाय 1, वो इसको एडअप हो जाता था p को. ठीक है, लेकिन यहाँ पे क्या होगा, सेम एज इट इज रहेगा और स्टॉप हो जाएगा. एनी डाउट टिल हियर? यस. सो हियर आई विल स्टॉप my video. In the next video I'll start with shorthand expression. Okay, I expect that you have understood your postfix, prefix and postfix, unary operators, types of operators, arithmetical expression, and your introduction part. Yes, arithmetical expression and arithmetical statement, unary three types of operators, of unary operators. Okay, as well as prefix and postfix. Just remember, prefix means change before action. Okay, the operator has been given before your operand, and postfix means change after action. The operator has been given after your operand. Okay, I'll stop over here. Thank you.
Hello students. In my previous video, I have started with you all with your unit 4 of your chapter number 1, that is operators in Java. I have explained you all the first slide which is displayed over here about operands, what is called as operands and what is called as operators. I have given you the difference between arithmetical expression as well as arithmetical statement. I have even told you the 3 types of operators, that is your forms of operators, that is unary operator, unary plus operator, unary minus operator, unary increment and decrement operator. Yes, so in your unary operator, what is happening, which is applied, this operator is applied to a single operand. Unary plus operator, what is happening over here is this operator is used before the operand and the result is the same as the value of a variable. Okay, in your unary minus is also working the same as unary plus operator. It is also used before the operand, but what happens, it will reverse the sign of an operand in your result. Okay, if in the variable the value is plus 4, it will give you the result as minus 4. If in the variable it is minus 5, it will give you the result as plus 5. Okay, then I have told you about unary increment and decrement operator. Okay, unary increment, that is plus plus, increases the value of an operand by 1, and unary decrement operator, that is minus minus, decreases the value of an operand by 1. Okay, I have told you about this. Then I have even explained you about prefix and postfix, the difference between the prefix and postfix. In your prefix, what happens is the increment or decrement operator has been applied before the operand. Okay, the increment and decrement operator has been applied before the operand. They are called as prefix operators. It works on the principle of change before action. It means the value of a variable changes before the operation takes place. I have told you about the example explanation also. Okay, that is plus p into 4. So what happens, actually the variable value is 5, as it is incremented plus p into 4. If it is happening, means what, it will change before the action. That means the value of your variable increases by 1, so it becomes 6 into 4, that is 24. Okay, the same is working with that of your decrement operator. Just see d equals to 11. Okay, wherein which d equals to 4 plus minus d. Okay, so wherein which 4 plus change before the action, as the variable value is 11, minus d means it will decreases by 1. Okay, that becomes 10. So 4 plus 10 equals to 14. So this is related to your prefix operator, change before action, remember, for your prefix. And for your postfix, the unary operator is used after an operand. Okay, prefix mein unary operator has been used before the operand, but in postfix unary operator has been used after the operand whose value is to be increased or decreased by 1. This works on the principle of change after the action. So what is the principle under postfix? It will change the value of a variable after the operation, after the action has been taken place. Okay, so example is here, that is p equals to 5, p plus plus into 4 is been given. So p equals to 5, what happens? It will be the same as the value of a variable given, that is 5. Why? Because the operation changes after the action taken place. Okay, so 5 into 4, that is 20. But here why the action has not been taken place afterwards? Because your expression ends up over here. The expression ends up over here. If it could be as plus p again or minus p again, so what happens? The one increment will be given to the next expression here. Okay, as it is ending up over here, so the resultant value is given over here and stopped. Cleared? Yes. So after this, I will continue with my topic, that is shorthand operation. From here I have to explain in this video for you. Shorthand operation means here the expression has been written in the short form. The expressions are written in the short form. Example, if a is equal to a plus b, so 2 times a is been over here, a is equal to a plus b, 2 times a is written. So this expression can be written as a plus equals to b. It can be written as a plus equals to b, and whereas if it is d equals to d divided by 2, can be written as d divided by equals to 2. Okay, the only thing that you have to remember that the variable must be same before and after the assignment operator. This variable must be same before the assignment operator, before and after the assignment operator. That is, here it is a, after the assignment operator is also a. Shorthand operation can be performed only when the variable is same before and after the assignment operator. At the time of shorthand expression can be performed. It can be performed. Okay, is that clear? So shorthand expression can also be done only and only when the variables are same before and after the assignment operator. Clear? Next comes binary arithmetic operator. Okay, binary arithmetic operator. An arithmetic operator which deals with 2 operands is known as binary arithmetic operator. Okay, so whichever operator which deals with 2 operands is called as binary arithmetic operator. That is, example is your daily arithmetical operators that you know as plus, minus, into, divide, modulus, etc. Next comes ternary operator. Ternary operator is also known as conditional assignment. Okay, ternary operator is also known as conditional assignment. These operators deal with 3 operands. Binary operator deals with 2 operands. Ternary operator deals with 3 operands. It is also called as conditional assignment statement. It is also called as conditional assignment statements, because the value assigned to a variable depends upon a logical expression. Okay, because the value assigned to the variable depends upon a logical expression. Just see the syntax of your ternary operator, how it is working. Syntax is variable equals to test expression, question mark, expression 1 is to expression 2. Now I have told you I told it as question mark. What is that question mark? That question mark is actually a ternary operator. It is actually a ternary operator. So variable, you are checking for the test condition. As ternary operator is called as conditional assignment statement, you are testing your statement over here. Variable equals to test expression equal ternary operator, expression 1 is to expression 2. So if your statement 1 is true, that will be given to your variable. If not, expression 1 is true, the second expression will be given to your variable. Okay, so variable contains expression 1. If the test condition is true, the variable contains expression 1 if the test expression 1 is true, or else expression 2 if it is false. Same thing I told just now. If expression 1 is true, it will be stored into your variable, or if it is not true, then the false expression 2 will be stored into your variable. Clear? Yes? So do remember, ternary operator deals with 3 operands, and the operator sign for ternary operator is question mark, and the syntax for your ternary operator is equals to variable equals to test expression, question mark, expression 1 is to expression 2. And your ternary operator is also called as conditional assignment operator. Okay, next, just see over here an example for your ternary, that is minus a equals to 5, a equals to 5, b equals to 3. So max equals to a greater than b, question mark, a is to b. So what is max? Max is the variable name. Max is the variable name. Here the value of 5 is stored in max. Why? Because you are checking for the test expression over here. A greater than b, 5 greater than 3. What happened? So expression 1, that is a is been stored into max, that is 5 is been stored into max, as a greater than b expression is true. Clear? Yes? Min equals to a greater than b greater than a is to b. What happened in this value? For the variable name min, value 3 is been stored in min, as b is greater than a. The statement, the test expression is false. Understood? Yes, this is relating to your ternary operator. Next comes types of operators that we are learning, that comes in your operators in Java, that is arithmetical operator, relational operator, logical operator, precedence of logical operator. Okay, then just look into arithmetical operators used to perform arithmetical calculation, you know it. Relational operator is used to show the relationship between two operands. Relational operator is used to show the relationship between two operands. This compare the values of a variable and result in terms of true or false. Logical operator and, or, and not, these operators gives true or false depending on the outcome of the different expressions. Okay, logical operators are being performed with the using your expressions. Okay, so then comes precedence of logical operator is not and or. Precedence of the logical operator is not and, or. That is, if a statement contains all these three logical operators, the not operator will perform first. Okay, you know this all, you have learnt in your 9th standard. Okay, next comes what is logical or, what is logical and, what is logical not. Okay, I'll just read out over here. Even this you have learnt it in your earlier, you know it. So logical or, this operator is used to combine two or more conditional expression. Combination of two or more conditional expression has been done with logical or. It will result true if any one or more condition is true, otherwise false. Logical and, this operator is used to combine two or more expression in such a way that it will result it in true if all the expressions are true, otherwise it is false. Logical not, this operator is used when you want the reverse of the result of an expression. It is a unary operator because it uses a single operand. Okay, so logical or, combination of two or more conditional expression, it will result true if any one or more condition is true, otherwise false. Again logical and is used to combine two or more expression. Okay, two or more in expression in such a way when the result is true, it will result in true if all the expressions are true, otherwise false. And logical not will give you the reverse of the result of an expression. Cleared? Or combines two or more expression, result in true in any one of the expression, test condition is true or else false. Logical and again combines two or more expression in such a way if the result is true, expression if the result is true if all the expression are true, otherwise false. Logical not reverses the result of an expression. Clear? Next comes the new operator, import keyword and the dot operator. The new operator is used to allocate the space in the dynamic memory for storage of data and function belonging to an object in a Java programming. You know why new operator has been used? This has been used when you are creating an object in a class. Okay, so definition of a new operator has been given. Then what is the use of an import keyword? So import keyword is used when you call on the system package to perform the input and output task in a Java programming. Okay, so import java.util.star, import java.io.star. You are calling for the system package to perform the input and output task in the Java programming, and the dot operator is used to represent the scope of a function, that is a function belonging to object or a class. The dot operator makes the process easy by calling members of a class to carry out the task. Okay, these are the definitions that you are supposed to go through. Then comes the output statement. You know two output statements that we are using into a Java programming, that is system.out.print as well as system.out.println. Okay, you know this two output statement that we are using. Okay, so what is the difference between system.out.print as well as system.out.println? Okay, so under SOP, what happens? The cursor remains in the same line of the screen after producing the result, and in your SOP LN, what happens? This statement is used the cursor is used in the next line of the screen after producing the result. So what happens? SOP, the cursor is in your same line, and SOP LN, the cursor goes to your next line when you are producing the result. So this is about your output statements. Then hierarchy of your operators. As in maths you are using your BODMAS system of hierarchy, in computers you are using your BEDMAS system of hierarchy. So order of operations are bracket, exponent, division, multiplication, addition and subtraction. Okay, bracket, exponent, division, multiplication, addition and subtraction. And the last one is this, you are supposed to try by yourself. Try out in your notebook, that is a Java expression for the following. 2 questions are here. I'll evaluate the following expressions. 2 questions are here. Please evaluate and try it out in your notebook or else in your rough book. Okay, I expect that unit 4 has been understood by you all students. Okay, no doubt, as this is already learnt in your 9th standard, I expect you are aware of this, how it is working. Yes, any doubt in this you can ask later. Fine. Okay, in the next video I will start with my unit 5. Okay, till then I'll stop it here. Thank you.